Hello, everybody. Today's a special podcast because today my guest is my brother, who is also the co-creator of Barnburners and Noblemen. This is kind of a special podcast where you actually get to hear directly from the two creators that are primarily behind this game. Obviously, we have artists and manufacturers and designers, but the co-creators are here on this podcast to just talk all things Barnburners, Cinderstone Games, the publishing company we created, how it started, where it's at, and where we're going. So hopefully the next several minutes will be exciting and interesting. And yeah, I would love to just kick it off with a little tiny intro maybe. Joe, if you want to talk a little about who you are and stuff like that before we get into the backstory of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jed. My name's Josiah, born 2 years before my brother Jed, and we started on this game probably about 10 years after I was born, and Jed was about 8, and we dived right into a game that we could both play together that was based strictly off of strategy and endless possibilities and replayability and character special abilities. So it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun back then, and kind of recreating it now that we're adults has just been a blast.
Yeah. I mean, diving right in. We were homeschooled as kids. We spent a lot of time together doing all kinds of things, living outside, doing all kinds of things. And one of the things that we really liked were certain board games and inspirations. And so this game originally was created with just pieces of paper we cut out, old boards that we put paper over, dominoes, old Monopoly dice, like just very
3x5.
rudimentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. No cards. And it basically came from the inspiration of a few games like Heroescape back when it came out in 2008, games like Star Wars Duels, which a lot of people don't know about, but it's a mini figure kind of card playing game. Even games like Catan, and also games like Age of Empires, which is a video game, but some of that story lore. Basically, Barnburners and Noblemen is a conglomeration of a lot of that things we went through as kids. But that game we originally made back in the day, we kept on adding characters. We used the world of Lord of the Rings back in the day because that's what we knew. But we kept on building on that game, and it was actually a really fun game. You can talk about that a little bit, Joe. Like a lot of our friends loved this game that looked horrible. It was just written cards and written pieces of paper, but it was actually, we discovered this really cool equation to make a really fun game.
Yeah, it was funny. It was a lot of misspellings. We used a couple different mediums, like Jed said, Lord of the Rings, some Star Wars. The point was we created a game that was specifically about strategy and character-based special abilities that you could get behind. As a human being, you could feel it. So Jed mentioned Heroescape was kind of a huge inspiration for a big part of the game. One of the lacking aspects of the game that we felt was character development. You know, we're playing with this cool character, but I have no idea who he is, where he came from, who she is, what she's doing, what the point of this whole battle is about. That's what we address in Barnburners and Noblemen. That's what we want to clarify with a game like this. There is a lore, there is a backstory for every single person, and there's a reason why they're on the board and why they're fighting. So that's important to us, and so, I don't know, I'm just super excited about it. I'm super pumped.
Yeah, that element is one of the reasons why we say this game's kind of a combination of Dungeons and Dragons, Risk, and Catan. We kind of put it into those pieces because everyone can kind of relate to at least one of those. And that element of world building was such an important piece that later years when we started playing some Dungeons and Dragons, we're not huge Dungeons and Dragons people, but we played it and we totally saw that element, that world building, storytelling element that we wanted to incorporate, but also set forth a really high level set of competitive rules. But yeah, as we grew and built this game, we now realize it's really hard to build a fun, competitive, and balanced game. But one of the only or best things that can be occurring to facilitate that is hours and hours of childhood, where you don't only have imagination, you have time. You have time to play and test characters. You don't have a huge job. And again, we were homeschooled. We would get through our schooling and then we would just play for hours in those periods of our lives as we built this game. And that's something that we accredit to the fun and the joy of this game, because when we really started to diving back into the official development about 4 years ago, we didn't have the time. We're adults with careers. There's no way we would have the time to build such a fun, interesting, competitive game when we're adults. So it's so cool that as kids, when we had that time and capacity, we built the foundations of what we see today. And then we're able to just build on those foundations as adults, which was just, yeah, it's been such a cool journey. So even I wish we had the game still, that OG game, but we played it all the way up until college years, even an old ratty sandwich bag. It was hilarious. And then someone threw it away at one point thinking it was trash. And so we kind of went through a period of time where we obviously didn't have the old game. We talked about it a lot. We reminisced, but then came a time where we were talking on the phone just as brothers. And we were talking about, man, remember that awesome game that we played for like 10 years of our lives before we lost it? And like, yeah, that would be so cool. And at the same time, I happened to be driving past a Barnes and Nobles, which is an awesome bookstore. And we had a friend that would always coin Barnes and Nobles Barnburners and Noblemen. He would just call it that. Oh, going to Barnburners and Noblemen. Obviously, completely different name, but it evoked in me this feeling of adventure. I was like, man, I want to know about whatever that world is of the barn burners and the noblemen. It just felt adventurous. It felt fantasy. It felt like a world I wanted to dive into. So I called my brother. I'm like, remember that game he made? What if we recreated that foundation game, but built the world of barn burners and noblemen around it? And that's kind of what started Daily Talks. And Joe, you can kind of go into that initial kind of like, oh, interesting. Like, yeah, that does sound like a cool world. Let's think of these characters, that characters. Let's take some of the character special abilities we had back in that game where we're using Lord of the Rings characters, but build our own characters, our own world, our own IP. And that's kind of what started about 4.5 years ago. And you can kind of take it from there a little bit.
Sure. Well, I mean, immediately when you brought up the subject, I was, of course, in on it. I mean, I love creating, I love conceptualizing a world that we have control over and that we can kind of paint the way we want it to look. So immediately, the word that came in my mind when Jed had suggested, let's reproduce this game, but let's do it on our own terms. Let's do it with our own, characters and our own perspective, was political unrest and diplomacy. To me, the friction that this game needed immediately in my mind was politics. I mean, we're in a world right now where political unrest and differences in point of view on politics specifically is nothing but relevant. And everybody has an opinion. And sometimes those opinions are aggressively different. And I would love to just say, lean into that. This is a game where you have two main factions, right? The Barnburners and Noblemen, but then two other factions that are just as relevant, just as powerful when you buy the expansions and you introduce the merchants and the alchemists. They all come from well thought out, lore supporting different political views that are not cut and paste things that we see today in America and other countries, but very similar too, right, Jed? And if you don't mind, I'll go into that a little bit, right? So on the Western Harvest, the western side of our little world of Enemir, it's technically a continent, but it's separate from anything else, and we can build what we want out of it. You have the Barnburner faction, and they are in the luscious farmland portion of this continent. So they are farmers. They are hard sweat, tears, blood workers, everyone there. So they find value in communities coming together and building a better future for every single person involved. I don't like to use terms in our world that would define something in a fantasy world that would not perfectly translate, but you think of like communism or socialism or a bunch of people working together where no one person is in charge, right? And everyone's working together for the good of everybody. Okay, that's that little corner of the land of Enemir. I say little corner. The Western Harvest is pretty large, but that's not everybody. Then you have the noblemen over on the east side, and they actually control the continent's capital, Emberock. And they are not like the Barnburners at all. They are feudal system. They are, listen, my dad's dad or mom or whatever you want to say, they ruled this town. And so now I get to rule that town because I have the same last name. And everybody else underneath me serves me as my serf or my, lesser landowner. And so you have the feudal system over on the east side. Then you have the scientists and the people that they integrate science into ruling. And that is the northern section. That's the alchemists. And in the world of Enemir, there is a little bit of magic. Not a lot, mostly science, but there is a little bit of magic. You don't have wizards casting spells and dragons destroying entire cities. You have the alchemists who have found a way, just and a lot like the lore of alchemy and planet Earth, there was the idea that you could turn certain substances into other material substances through science. It never really actually worked on planet Earth. On planet Enemir, it does work a little bit, right? And so you have some sort of magic element. And these people in the North really believe that science and technology and pushing forward with integrating, that sort of thing should be on the throne of this continent. And then down south, you have the merchants, and everybody knows what type of people those are. They're the money people. They're the people who control trade. They persuade people by getting them what they want because they have a lot of resources, they have a lot of money, and they are involved with every different market across the entire continent. So for the people down south, the merchants, coin rules, right? Like money is power, and those who know how to get it and keep it should probably be in charge. So you have 4 different perspectives clashing over the fall of a universal bloodline, the Luminaire bloodline, if you go into our lore. And each faction has a very good reason why they should be on the throne. And that is exactly where our game begins. So sorry, I know that was a little bit long-winded, but I'm just passionate about the differences in faction.
Yeah, I think Joe brings up a good point. Is lore is as important to us as how it actually translates to the game mechanics. So if you can imagine these 4 different factions, none of them are just bad. None of them are just good. There's people in both who have honorable intentions, and people in both, and all of them, I should say, that have dishonorable intentions. So there's kind of like this, just like in today's political world, any political world, there's tension there. We got a lot of that political inspiration from Game of Thrones, actually. Game of Thrones does a good job. Sometimes they do more evil, but you kind of have these different families or houses that are clashing with their own ideas of who thinks should rule. And then you have the main bad guy in Game of Thrones, like the White Walkers, whatever. But the point is that they do this political conflict really well. And certain players will kind of Barnburners and Noblemen will be drawn to different factions. And so we use that part, but that all is just auxiliary to the actual play styles. But we like to incorporate it. So for example, obvious ones, the merchants are more money, coin focus. So the individual characters in our game actually usually have higher coin rolls, or they can do things with coins that other people can't. Or alchemists, they have generally higher risk and higher reward specials. So they can have a special that might actually be really amazing if the roll hits. But if it doesn't hit, it could actually be damaging, which is unlike a lot of other, like no other faction has as many specials like that, like the alchemists do. So it's just an interesting way of really, it's important to us to create a world that's worth looking into, but translating that world into a balanced, fair, and fun game. So as we start creating characters, we have these visions of different political systems, different factions, but we're building individual characters inside those factions that display some of the cultural things that each faction have, but actually are unique, one-of-a-kind characters. And that character development is really what took place after that first phone call. Me and my brother were on the phone almost every day, coming up with new characters, doing all this stuff, like building our factions. And then we got our first revision done. We just used random cards and random art. Nothing. We didn't hire an artist at this point, just to play test. We come together over Christmas break because we live in different states, and we played the first round. And we realized immediately, okay, we built a foundation as kids that was awesome and fun, but this game needs a lot of work. As you can imagine, play testing is really important. So over the next 3 years, we're just playing, revising until basically we get to the point of we're on revision number 7, and we order 150 pre-production sets, send them out to ambassadors to basically get this thing launched. And through this whole process. Joe, you can talk on this a little bit, but we were just making a game for ourselves. We wanted to recreate a childhood dream and just make it as adults. We had careers. We could support a cool, legitimate like creation of this thing. And so we started doing it. But in the process, we kept on getting feedback from people like, oh my gosh, this is fun. Because obviously we want to play the game with people. And people are like, guys, this game is amazing. You should try to market it. And we're like, oh, yeah. But we kept on getting that more and more. And we're like, maybe we actually should. So we take the step early on. Let's hire an artist, Josh Calloway, amazing artist who built the whole artwork behind Barn. He really took our vision and brought it to life. But that process started and is continuing as this is a passion project that me and my brother like doing just for ourselves. Like we just like doing it. And at the end of the day, even if no one else in the world likes this game, we built a game that we love, our families will have forever, and we love that. But like I said, people started giving us all this like amazing feedback. We're like, man, let's make something out of this. But maybe I want to hear your feedback on that last kind of like 4 years of development of playing, revising, adding elements in, which I'll get to next. But talk about some of those elements that were added in and some of the ones that we're really proud of and stuff.
Yeah, well, I think the low hanging fruit here, if you will, would be the coin, right? So you introduced coin as an idea couple years ago, and it wasn't a thought right away, right? We our game that we played for 10 years with different mediums, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, different types of characters that we brought into it. The whole point was let's come up with characters that we actually know and love, and then build special abilities that would emulate what we already know about that character. So games like Heroescape and some others that like we would play, like this is cool, this is fun, but like I don't know who this is. This person is random. They have no lore. They have no backstory. They have nothing that matters to me. So we want to have a story that has meaning and matters to us, right? So we built the world of Venomir. We wrote a lot of literature. We wrote a bunch of backstory lore. And then we developed characters that, like Jed said, was based off of stuff that we'd been doing for several years. So that part was kind of, we were already ready to go on developing special abilities and play style and skill level and heroes versus group versus unique units. I mean, we had a lot of that nailed down. But Jed introduced the idea of coin a couple of years ago, and that changed everything. And just so you know, I'm not going to get into it too far right now, but there's a lot more to go. There's a huge future for this game, and it's not just a knockout, drag out, last person standing wins everything, and kind of like narrow focused mindset to a victory of this game. It's going to blow your mind, some of the additions that we add on after this launch. But anyway, yeah, coin was a big one. So it wasn't just, hey, is my character stronger than you, and can I figure out how to use my special abilities better than you? And yeah, now you're defeated, and I'm left standing, so I win. Coin allowed you to purchase diplomacy cards, and again, I use that word again, diplomacy. It goes back to politics and leveraging situations to get the upper hand when you might not, based off of your front card stats. So you roll for coin as opposed to attacking for your character's single action during a turn. You might not be close enough to attack. You might not have a range. There's 1,000 different reasons why you would use. Maybe you have a really good coin roll and a really bad attack, aka the merchant faction. The point is, you get 3 coins, you cash them in, and you get a card that's going to be good. It's going to be helpful. It's going to give you an advantage. 98% of the time. There are a couple cards that are faction specific. That wouldn't apply to you if you don't have that faction. Otherwise, it's a card that's beneficial. Now, for your specific, where you're at, which characters you have on the board, and what enemies you're facing, it might not be that helpful. But the idea is none of them are negative. So you buy a diplomacy card, and it could very well completely change the outcome of the game. If not, it's going to do something beneficial to you. But if it absolutely doesn't matter to you, you can cash it and get a coin back, and then you're a third of the way onto another diplomacy card. So Jed introduced the idea of coins and diplomacy card to add a little workaround to winning the game instead of just combat versus combat, skill versus skill, me versus you. And Jed, I could keep going, and we should probably talk a little bit more about the difference between one-on-one versus a 3 or 4 player game. But I'll give it back to you.
I wanted to mention, going off your thing about coin, an important thing for us as we created this game was we got a lot of inspiration from war game type games, like war games, that genre we really liked. And there's always these far off things like Warhammer 40K or some bigger, like older war games that are classics, like with tons of minifigures, like whole, like World War II setups that you're fighting. But oftentimes these games felt inaccessible and they oftentimes felt similar. And so adding something like coin, a currency, and then almost like a card building portion to it felt so unique. It was bigger than just a war game. Although it was a simplified version of Wargame, it added more to it. It hit more, I guess, categories of what a game could be. Specifically, wanted to make a note about the reason why we call it diplomacy cards, again, goes back to the OG ethos of this game. We wanted to create a fun mechanics game, but also a world. And diplomacy we view as like your characters, if you go into the world of enemy, are using these cards in a very diplomatic way. They're attacking, they're converting, they're doing these things that very much affect the diplomacy inter-character, if you kind of go into the meta of this game. But also, whenever you're playing with more than one person, multiple players, these cards are so important because it's the one element that no matter how skilled an opponent can be, how much they know, like they might know every back card, special, everything, so they can predict the strategy you might try to use. These cards are your one way of keeping your strategy secret because they don't, you buy them, you see them, and they don't know what they are. So you can pull them out for specific strategies and things they don't see coming. And so it is very effective diplomatically in multiplayer games because someone's coming after you, can say, hey, I have judgment, or I have conversion, or I have some really powerful card that if you come after me, I'm going to use it on you. But if you don't come after me and go after them, I'll use it on them. So just like Tabletop and a lot of other games, diplomacy is really important in this game when you're playing multiplayer, and where you kind of playing the board and winning over some other opponents can actually help you defeat your stronger opponents. And it's such a game of diplomacy. And that's like a really big element that we kind of arrived at coming in. And I'll kind of take it over to you on this part, but we noticed it's hard to make a game that's fun with multiplayer, but also fun on 1v1, because although diplomacy really can affect the way a game can go, we wanted a game that you can play 1v1 and still be balanced, where no matter how much diplomacy you do, it won't matter because you only have one opponent. And that was something that, even to more than we expected, to our surprise, totally became a reality. And I'd love for you to talk a little about how it can be fun multiplayer, but also it can be weirdly balanced and amazingly fun just 1v1.
So absolutely, I'll try to go quick, but it is a different game. If you're playing 1v1, there is no table talk and diplomacy. You can't convince your single enemy opponent to not attack you. Fast forward to when you're playing with 3 or 4 players, or, we talked about this a little bit. You can play with 20 players if you want. The game, it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. There are 6 technical bases on the initial map that we've created, but you could team up. You could do teams of 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want with the game. We have built the rules and structures and drafting. We've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb, but to be honest with you, like, there's 1,000 ways you could play this. So we have it 2 to 4. If you're playing with 4 people, this game gets really fun. Honestly, 3 or 4. Because what it becomes is, don't attack me because I'm weaker than our opponent. So join forces with me. Let's defeat party number 3 or 4. And then we can work out an amicable way to see who comes in first and second. So then you convince that person to say, all right, I'm going to use my big card or my big attack on our mutual opponent. The second they do that, you stab them in the back. They kill your opponent, you kill them. Listen, it's all fair in Barnburners and Noblemen. That's the whole point. It's a political unrest, and you're making alliances, you're breaking alliances. You are doing whatever you possibly can to come out on top and own the throne of enemies. That's the point. And so we, instead of running away from table talk, like I played a lot of Risk growing up, more than my brother Jed. And one of the biggest complications that I would run into with a lot of my friends was, please, let's not do table talk. It'll turn this game into from a 5-hour game into a 30,000-hour game because people are constantly just ganging up on the weaker person. In this game, there are no reinforcements once your group, your lineup is defeated. There is an end to this game And your entire point is to convince everybody else to let you live long enough to win and to gain the throne. It is bizarre how fun it is and how close these endings come down to. Sometimes if you're playing with 3, even 4, Jed, you can attest, every player's got one guy left with 1 health left, and it's just who's going to make the first move on who, and the winner is oftentimes completely unpredictable based off of the first half of the game. That being said, this is not a free-for-all. Doesn't matter your strategic acumen. It's just a dice roll who wins the game. That is not true at all. Jed can attest. Better players tend to win this game more often. And that's just because they played it more often.
They do win it.
They're better at convincing other people to attack other people. I mean, that's what it is when you're playing with more than 2 people.
Well, that's just a part. You have to play the field, but it's not just that. It's not just about talk. That's just one piece. There are tangible strategies. Every single character, especially the strong ones, have a kryptonite. They have a weakness. They have another character who does something that really affects them. And I do want to finish up because we could talk about this game and the fun, like what we love about it all day. I do want to move on a little bit, but an example of that is like group cards where you have multiple characters a part of one character card, and each one of those characters can move and attack. And that's like, wait a second. So if I have a group card of 3 and another group card of 3 and they're out because you get 2 character cards, I have 6 characters out. What? That's amazing. And they all can attack. But they have weaknesses. They only have 1 health. They have usually low defense, not necessarily high attack. And in the reverse, we have heroes and big characters who, for example, like Grandor has Power Pound. He can affect everyone in a range of 3. So yes, you might have 3 characters out at once. That might feel overpowered. It's going to be swingy. But there's always a character that can counter that. Someone that can take out that whole entire character card in one roll. And so that's just something, yes, obviously diplomacy is such a big thing in this game, but actual strategy with character specials and the way characters work and the combination of certain characters who benefit from each other is so important. And that's why the 1v1s can be so fun. I've played several games where literally a 1v1 game of 8 character cards or more, which means you have 2 out at once, and you literally have a whole stack of them coming in from the background, literally come down to 1 character versus 1 character. It's crazy how often that happens. And that's rare in a game which can be so dynamic and has such a variety of things. Obviously, that's because you have to draft same amount of skill levels. There's 3 skill levels. You got to make sure you're equal in that way because that's what usually balances out. But this game is weirdly balanced the more you play. If you're new, you will miss things that could potentially swing a game crazy, and you might just have one of your characters just die right away or have a whole line of them die because you didn't see this other character come up who's really powerful and you didn't strategize how to kill him. The more you play, the less that becomes prominent. But I really would like to move on a little bit. I would like to move on out of like the ethos of the game and the funness, but more of like the actual materials. Like, what does creating a game look like? There's a lot of decisions as we went through this game of like, okay, we're going to create a game. We're not going to use dominoes and pieces of paper anymore. We're going to actually go to manufacturers. We're making artwork. We have to make decisions along that way. One of the big things that comes up a lot is just our premium components. I made a whole YouTube video about this. We get it all the time. That was a big value for us. Just like the stories, just like the mechanics, just like we need to make a fun game. We wanted to create an experience that's more than just a fun game mechanically. We wanted to create a thing that people actually like touching and a tactile element. A lot of the games that inspired this game embraced that. In a weird way, it almost had this toy factor, almost like, wait a second, I'm enjoying this just out of like the intricate tactile experience I'm getting outside of mechanics. Yeah, we could have just thrown in cardboard cutouts. We could have had cardboard coin. And yes, the mechanics would have been the same, but you lack this experience. If we're going to build a world we want people to come into, you have to have backstories. You have to have great mechanics, but you also need to focus on the tactile experience people are having. And that's why we, throughout this process, knew we're going to have premium components all the way through, and we're not even going to falter on that. We've considered several times, what if we made a standard version of this with just cardboard cutouts, with just cardboard coin, cardboard, or maybe just a 6-sided attack defense dice only, basic. Don't dive into the experience. And time after time, we're like, we think we can do something here that is maybe not as financially beneficial. We're not going to squeeze every dollar out of everyone who buys this game. We're going to make less money, but we're going to give people an experience that's as memorable on so many levels. And so from the coin, keeping it metal, which does cost a lot of money, that one of the reasons why our game is as expensive as it is, and still under $100, which if you know games is crazy for what we're offering. And we're obviously making less money than what probably people would advise, but we wanted to carry that all the way through. And so the coin, the 3D standee, or the acrylic standees, not 3D, the 2D acrylic standees, and the fact that we paid to have our artists make backs for every one of those acrylic standees. We didn't just do 2 fronts like the classic standee method. Like, you know what? Just pump it out as cheap and easy as possible. We're like, no, we're going to put care into something. And all that goes back to, this was a passion project. It goes beyond just a financial success. And you can see that in every step of the way. And that's just something that was such a big deal for us. And I would love for you to talk a little about, Joe, like why we're staying with these premium components and why we kind of wanted to forego some of these, like, let's make a cheaper version so people who can just buy it for cheap can experience the fun. And it's like, we think the game is worth experiencing for the first time as a premium experience. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, you're 100% right. This game is not about making money. Do we think it's an amazing game that a huge majority of gamers in the US and other countries would love to play? And could it create a huge business in the future? Absolutely. I completely believe that. But the whole point is, we're not going to compromise on the aspects of this game that make it what it is in order to make more money. That's just not the point. The point is, we've already been successful. We've been able to make 150 sets, send them out to a bunch of friends and influencers and people who are interested in this game, where we've gotten the vast majority of an amazing flying colors review. Like, that is validation in of itself. We want to share it with the world, and of course we have to make our investments back and all of that sort of stuff, sure, but the point is not to make a bunch of money. And you will see that in every single aspect of this game. We didn't cut corners at all. I mean, from the board design to 2-sided die where you need a lot more of them, to metal coins, to standees, we've pulled out all the stops on a game that is our first creation. I don't know if I don't even know if that's ever happened before. Like, I mean, lots of times you have game companies and people have done it 1,000 times and they're able to dial that in and give the people what they want at a premium price because they have had success in the past. Our success that we've had in the past is a really fun time playing our game. We want to share that with the world, and I know you're going to like it if you really dive into it. And that's not just people who are deep board gamers. I will raise my hand as someone who is not a serious lore Dungeons and Dragons board gamer. I'm just not. Never have been. I don't have the time to be now with young children and all that. Like, the point is, this is a super fun game that people who are not big board gamers can purchase and play and have a lot of fun with. The price is going to go down. We get this game into, retail stores, it's not going to be $80, $85 anymore. It's going to be around the price of Catan, or, obviously we can't lose money on an adventure, but the point is, we want to share this with the world. So, and everything about our game reflects that ethos.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. And I think that's a good thing to say, is that our mission is not to make a business. We want to make a sustainable game. We want to make a sustainable world that we can continue to build on. We have so many expansions that we're working on that will be released if this launch goes well and we can make it sustainable. And it's our dream job. If we could do this full time and build out the world of Barnburners and Noblemen. And again, we have so many stuff in the pipeline to work on. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg if we can do this full time. It's like a dream job. Also, what comes with that, this is our first time. You mentioned that. And we've never done this before. We're not serial board game creators. We don't even have a ton of awesome board game ideas. We just have this core idea that we had the time to when we were kids to develop and make. And the cool thing about this game is it's expandable infinitely. You can continue to create factions. You can continue to create characters. You can continue to create elements and different maps and different forms, medias. Like, we already talking and reaching out to people about potential, like, books and stuff and other mediums. So there's music, a world out there that we love. And music, which we already have one song on Spotify and another song's coming out on Monday. So it's like, we have a lot of really cool stuff that we're creating multimedia. When it comes to creating a game, we are new. And I did want to, as we move into kind of the future of Barnburners and Noblemen and Cinderstone Games, which is our publisher, which is us, you're looking at it. I wanted to first put a disclaimer is we're not going to get everything right. We're going to get a lot of things wrong. Most of it's going to be a detriment to us. We're trying to make as least things we get wrong a detriment to our community, because we want people to enjoy this game. We also want to hold on to like the ethos of what we envisioned this game as kids, because we knew it was fun then. We see that it's fun now, but this is a back and forth. Like, we want the feedback from our community. We're not going to, again, we're just two of us. We're not going to be able to have the best customer service yet. We're going to try our best. We're going to try to listen. We're going to try to listen to everyone. We're going to try to make adjustments as needed. And everything that was brought up several times, every criticism, everything we've addressed and have made changes on. We're going to keep our ears open for things that do come up like that. But just as we go forward, you're looking at the producers of this, you're looking at the publishers. And so we have capacity right now. It's not crazy, even though we're definitely slamming the capacity as we prepare for launch, but we would love to do this full time and build out the world of Barnburners and Noblemen. But just know, as we go through that, there'll be learning curves, and we would love if you kind of join us in this journey. We think we've done a pretty good job so far, but obviously throughout it, we're going to be listening to our community and listening to everyone. But I would like to kind of transfer into, as we kind of get to the latter part of this podcast, is what's the future of Barnburners and Noblemen and Cinderstone Games? I have some things, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Joe.
It's a great question. I mean, that's for some of our, and we actually have quite a few serious fans and people who are very well invested in not just the game, but the story. And they deserve to know that there's a massive story. Like you said, this is the tip of the iceberg. Okay, this is the tip of what we're experiencing. All right, we built the foundation with 4 main factions, 2 core factions, and then 2 auxiliary factions that are also just as important, just as powerful in the world of Venomir. There's more factions coming. We've built this to increase beyond what you can imagine. All right, we're in a tiny, let's say, Australia-sized continent. There's a lot more out there, and it's built into our lore and our history now. You will see that when you read the history portion of the of your game mechanics manual that you get in the master set. I mean, there are things that are already taking place that are going to add so much more to this game. Let's talk about victory, right? Last man standing. It is a war game after all. Yes, there's coin. Yes, there's diplomacy. Yes, there's diplomacy cards. It's going to get way bigger than that. We're talking about alternate ways to win that don't just negate the whole point of a war game, but actually add to it and increase the technical level of the game while adding more technical characters. And Jed already said it, all right? Like, we could add way more characters. There are people out there already doing that on their own. And instead of discouraging that, we encourage that, man. Build out what you want. You think you have a great idea for some alchemist that you came up with? Get online, type them out, put them on a 3x5 like we did when we were kids, right? Like, build it out. Do it yourself. This game is for you to experience. Obviously, Jed and I have thought about it 1,000 different ways and 1,000 different hours, and have debated and considered and written and honestly deleted and then rewritten. Like, there is a future for this game that I'm not going to get into the details with yet. But trust me, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, we have a different phases set up. We have expansions that we're going to be continuing to develop and finishing up. Again, if this launch is successful, there's so much stuff coming, and we're really excited about that. And as we go, we're going to continue just releasing different kinds of expansions, adding to this world. The interesting thing about creating a war game that's character based is that you can expand it on a lore side, but also on a character side. You can continue. We put enough variability in the game as is to have so many different kinds of characters that play unique roles, that are unique play styles, and also really fun. Even an expansion that's coming out for the launch is the storehouses. That was something that we developed kind of in the process of getting ready for launch about 1.5 years ago, and it was so awesome. It's basically a small map expansion for our current map that just, again, adds so much value to the game. So this is just a taste what you're going to see at the launch. We have a lot of fun add-ons, neoprene map, but again, we're going to keep on building this world out in this community. And if we can do it full time, we'll be able to build it out faster than ever. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We're very anticipatory. We're really excited. We feel like there's an awesome future. And again, it's all coming from extreme passion. If this was all for a bottom line, we would not even be close to this. And so if you're listening to this and you're a fan of this, just rest assured this game's in good hands, because we are driven to continue to make it better, to add to it, to continue to get feedback from our community. It's a very community engaging game. We even want to open up part of our website in the future to have a community portion where people can post ideas, whether it's house rules, drafting ideas, character ideas, and people can engage in that content, because we want to build that community side. We will have our official released side, but we want to push into that community side. Again, going back to games like Dungeons and Dragons, it has such a big community portion where people can make it the way that they're in their crew like playing the most, because we want to empower people to have fun. And this is just one of the conduits to do it. So Cinderstone Games, we made as a publisher so we could be legit, but it's all focused on Barnburners and Noblemen right now. We even have ideas for one-player versions inside Barnburners and Noblemen, dungeon crawl versions, simple versions, kids versions, all different kinds of versions, focused primarily in the world of Barnburners and Noblemen, and we're just really excited. Is there anything else, Joe, that you would like to mention or talk about before I wrap this up?
No, we could talk honestly for 5,000 hours. I mean, we've already done that in the development of this game. But I want to say, I appreciate everything you're doing, Jed. Obviously, I know we're worlds apart, we live on different sides of the country, but what I know, I have my list. When you're playing this and you're not thinking about it as a launch or a future business or any of that, when you're just playing, what is your favorite aspect of this game, or one of, as a creator, as a maker of the game, that's talking to your brother here? Well, what is one of your favorite things? Maybe a favorite faction, maybe a favorite character, maybe a favorite aspect. What would you say? What comes to mind?
Well, zooming out, I think my favorite part about this game is that it's fun. Throughout the whole process of developing, it sounds stupid, but I always went through the phase. Does this make the game more fun? I don't care if it sounds cooler. I don't care if it feels like it might be cooler. When you're playing with it, does it make it more fun? And that test has saved us from a lot of things. It's adjusted a lot of things, because we're like, oh, this sounds like a good idea, right? Let's incorporate that. Play it. Is it fun? Even if you win in this specific way? No, it's not fun. So overall, that's one of my favorite things about this game, is that it's fun. Honestly, it's so much fun. Zooming in a little bit, I think one of my favorite parts about this game is what we've talked about a lot, and it has to do with the extreme replayability, but it's a fun social experience while also being an extremely fun strategic experience. It's like somehow it feels like you can be playing chess, yet you also need to be focused on the social element of it. So although chess is only skill-based, it translates that this game really favors the skill-based people, yet there's chance and there's a social element that can totally change the outcome of the game. You can't just rely on that skill base, but you also can't just rely on the chance and the social element. You have to find the line between it. I feel like even accidentally, through the several revisions we've done with the characters, we found that line in a lot of ways. And then just finishing off, it's so cool that we're on that line, but as the more we play, even though we created the game, almost every time I think of new strategies. I calculated out all the different variations that this game can give with just the current characters at play. And it's like around 1 million different variations. And that's only with a few character cards. It's not even like a game where you're playing with all the character cards. So there are so many different variations that you can go into. And the deeper you go into this game, the more you realize how strategically deep it is. It's simple on the surface, extremely deep as soon as you dive under. And that's kind of what my favorite part of this game is. And what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for lore, right? I love faction differences. I love finding a family, a name, a storyline, and just banking, putting the farm down on it. So I for no other reason than just developing it and enjoying the characters I did. I love the nobleman characters. I mean, they're ruthless. They are individuals. They are arrogant. They are jerks in a lot of ways. They do really well on their own, not necessarily well with other people and other players and other allies. And I just really love to get behind that and really find like a sense of value when I can win with a nobleman. Like you said, winning this game is not easy. You have to find several different medias of way to come to a victory. You can't just strategize. You have to be able to table talk. You have to be able to think outside the box, buy coin, use diplomacy cards, imagine what sort of diplomacy cards your opponents are hiding, and work all around that to come to a victory. I have never felt more satisfied winning a game, whether it be video game, board game, game of life, than when I win with Barnburners and Noblemen in a legit good campaign, good player like interface that takes an hour or so. And I've done it a lot. I built the game, so if I hadn't, then that would be pretty embarrassing. But the point is, when I win this game, it's not just because of happenstance or I randomly happen to do something well. 90% of the time, it's because you really, like Jed said, you have to pull in all those things. You have to pull in the social table talk element. You have to pull in thinking outside the box, being willing to roll for coin when you really want to just attack. And then thirdly, strategy. Who you're going to put out first, who you're going to draft with, who you're going to pick, and who you're going to pair together to defeat whatever enemy might face you on the board. So yeah, like you said, it's the gameplay, it's the lore, it's finding people you're passionate about and then just getting the best out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of summing up what you and I both said, the cool thing about this game is that it might only take a few games or a few minutes to learn, but I'm telling you, the more you dive into this, and this is coming from someone who's played it, we played it more than anyone. The more you play, the deeper you understand that it takes a lifetime to master. There are so many variables in this game, and it might feel plain at first and might be pretty simple because we wanted to create it attainable. We wanted to make it approachable for people, but like the deeper you go, the more you realize, oh my gosh, there are tiers upon tiers upon tiers of strategy, so much of which we didn't even plan for. We just realized the system we built allowed for it. And it was so cool to see that. And to this day, continue to find new strategies that were like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was there. So yeah, that's just summing up. We love that about the game. And we're so excited to be launching July 1st, 9 a.m. Make sure you guys mark your calendars. We really want to see this game come to life. We want to see the world join in, play it. We want to see our Kickstarter be successful. But even more than that, once the fulfillment starts happening, we want to see like tournaments start picking up. People start totally joining the movement of Barnburners and Noblemen because we see this being a very, very fun, addictive in some ways, growing game. And also, hopefully, you'll see us at future gaming conventions and stuff like that. We'd love to go to Gen Con and all the ones overseas someday. But for now, we're just launching our game on Kickstarter, so you can support us that way. But any last words from you, Joe?
No, I appreciate all the work you put into it. And I appreciate that we've been able to bring this to fruition. And like I said, as far in my book, we're already successful. Right? Like this game is awesome. I will play it for the rest of my life. My children will play it. Generationally, it's a huge accomplishment, and I just thank you for all of your support and making that happen.
Yeah, two brothers fulfilling a childhood dream. Wouldn't want it any other way. Well, that's all for now. Thank you guys if you've watched to this point, and we'll see you in the next one. And we'll see you July 1st, Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks. See you in the next one.
See ya.